We'll move on now to the formal presentations. And we'll start with the resolution proclaiming the month of January 2025 San Luis Obispo County Human Trafficking Awareness Month. And I'd like to call District Attorney Dan Dow to the podium, please. And Supervisor Peschong will be asked to do, not allowed.
I'll be allowed.
Yeah, we're going to give you something to do.
Thank you for allowing me.
To read the presentation.
This is a resolution designating January 2025 as San Luis Obispo County Human Trafficking Awareness Month. Whereas human trafficking occurs when a person is recruited, harbored, obtained, or exploited through force, fraud, or coercion for the purposes of sexual exploitation, forced labor, involuntary servitude, debt, bondage, and other forms of slavery. And whereas Human Trafficking Awareness Month recognizes the critical role all Californians play in preventing, reporting, and adjudicating these heinous crimes. And whereas victims of human trafficking suffer emotionally, psychologically, and physical horror at the hands of their captors who instill fear to keep them enslaved. And whereas the U.S. Department of State has estimated that 14,500 to 17,500 victims are trafficked into the United States each year, California has been identified as one of the nation's top 10 states with the highest rates of human trafficking, with San Luis Obispo County being a county for trafficking industries, including farms, brothels, and online sexual exploitation. And whereas the International Labor Organization estimates that there are more than 24.9 million human trafficking victims worldwide at any time, young girls and women are 57.6% of forced labor victims and 99.4% of sex trafficking victims. And whereas the covert nature of human trafficking means many individuals are unaware that human trafficking exists in our San Luis Obispo County communities. And whereas the goals of the San Luis Obispo County Anti-Human Trafficking Task Force is to prevent and combat human trafficking through education, protect and assist victims with full respect to their human rights through identification of resources and needs for the victims, and promote cooperation among law enforcement and community organizations by allocating resources to meet these objectives. Now, therefore, be it resolved and ordered that the Board of Supervisors of the County of San Luis Obispo, State of California, hereby designates January 2025 as San Luis Obispo County Human Trafficking Awareness Month and urges all citizens to observe this month by becoming aware of the tragedy of human trafficking, by supporting those who are working towards its end, and by participating in community awareness efforts.
Could we invite up all the partners? Could we invite all of our partners to meet you? So all of the folks that are on our Anti-Human Trafficking Task Force, if you'd come up and join us for a photo.
Mr. Dow?
Thank you. Good morning, Madam Chair and members of the board. We want to thank you for once again declaring January the Human Trafficking Awareness Month. It's perhaps human exploitation and slavery is perhaps one of the worst scourges in the history of mankind. And so it's important that while we have wonderful quality of life here in San Luis Obispo, to recognize and admit and understand the fact that we have this age-old problem occurring here within our borders. I'm grateful for your board's support now for our Anti-Human Trafficking Task Force, which began just 10 years ago. We just had our 10th year anniversary at the end of 2024. We're beginning our 11th year together. The good work that we've done has addressed over 207 human trafficking related crimes occurring in San Luis Obispo County over the last 10 years. I say related crimes because there's the specific crime that we can charge of trafficking. And then there are the related crimes of attempting to contact a minor or contacting a minor for the purposes of sexual exploitation, or solicitation for prostitution is a similar related crime that creates a demand in our community for which traffickers, many are gang members such as the Fresno Bulldogs in Fresno and others, that enslave human beings and bring them into our community and up and down the state for their to exploit the children and the adults that are trafficked, and to earn a large amount of money for these gang and other organizations. And so 207 human trafficking related cases in San Luis Obispo County that your local law enforcement community and allied agencies of support like the Department of Social Services that does tremendous work in the area of CSEC, that's an acronym for the commercial sexual exploitation of children. We have our partners here today. I want to make sure that we also recognize their good work. And in a moment, I'm going to ask Devin Drake, the Department of Social Services Director, to comment on the great support that his agency is to our anti-human trafficking effort. And I want to acknowledge that we've got some members of our law enforcement team here. We have from the Sheriff's counter-human trafficking team here, two of the officers from that, Kara Dickel, and another deputy. And we have Freedom Calling, a nonprofit organization that specifically supports and serves victims. They also go into our schools, and particularly in the South County and the Santa Lucia Mar School District, to teach our youth about the dangers of potentially being exploited online for trafficking purposes. They're doing great work. And there are other organizations as well that have come along and support us. I'm proud of the hard work that we've done. I'm sad that we've had so many cases, but I'm grateful because I think that the efforts of what we're doing today calls attention to it. The efforts of our law enforcement operations, which we don't give you the operational details publicly, but on a periodic basis in our county, law enforcement is proactively doing things to seek out and find these traffickers, find the people that are attempting to contact minors in our community for commercial sexual exploitation, and go after them. So this year, in 2024, we had 18 cases, 18 individuals arrested, 13 of which were adults that were attempting to meet up with a minor for commercial sexual exploitation. And so our office appreciates the hard work of particularly the Sheriff's Office and our Bureau of Investigations with the DA's office in proactively trying to disrupt these networks and take them down and avoid victimization in the cases where it's a proactive operation, but also be prepared and go in and stop it and free other victims who have actually been trafficked. So again, it's a scourge on society, but we are doing a great job here in our county. You may have seen in December, I think it was on Christmas Day, that the New Times published an article. I want to recommend that if you haven't seen it, that you consider going back and reading that. It was written by a Cal Poly intern at New Times, Emma Montalbano, and they really made this a top priority to dig in and seek out as much information as she could to talk about what's happening, what the problem is, what the resources are dedicated to combating it, and also she goes into some of the numbers and things that we have in our community. So thanks to the New Times for covering this. I I think with that, I'm going to turn it over briefly first to Jesse Yates, who's the director of our Victim Witness Assistance Center, the Christopher G. Money Victim Witness Assistance Center that works with survivors of human trafficking. Next, we'll hear briefly from Devin Drake, and then we'll adjourn our portion of your meeting. Thank you.
Good morning, Madam Chair and board members. Thank you again for having us. I definitely want to start out by thanking you guys, the Board of Supervisors, for always supporting the most vulnerable victims in our community. I know each time you see my face, we come up here and smile for a picture, but it's always for something that is definitely really heavy in the county. And without your guys' support, it definitely would not be as good. I know we have an amazing Victim Witness Center here in our county and victim providers, and that's only because you, the board, support all of that work. So thank you so much. We definitely appreciate the understanding, the involvement, and definitely the thoughtfulness that you all give for our proclamations and the endeavors of the Christopher G. Money Victim Witness Assistance Center. Today, we are raising awareness of the grave crime and human rights abuse of human trafficking with an estimated, and depending on where you look, it's a different number, but 27.6 million victims worldwide at any given time. Human traffickers prey on people of all ages, backgrounds, and nationalities, exploiting them for their own profit. So here in our county, we are blessed to have a team of individuals, county departments, and community organizations that Mr. Dow had mentioned that work tirelessly every day to bring traffickers to justice and to support the victim survivors. I would like to take this opportunity, even though I know they came up to take a picture, but I want everybody to stand here who are the real heroes, who have to see it day in and day out working. So if everybody who works in human trafficking could stand up, I know. Kara, everybody. So thank you. So these are the people that have to take on that secondary trauma and working on that, and that's really hard. So I just really want to thank you guys for helping the victims that come through our center and the ones who don't make it to our center as well. So thank you very much.
Good morning, Madam Chair and members of the board. I'm Devin Drake, Director of Social Services. Thank you for this opportunity and for bringing this to the forefront. I concur with DA Dan Dow. This is a scourge. It's despicable what is happening here. And in terms of the children and what we see, the impact is huge. Two things I'd like to comment on that were mentioned in the resolution is the educational part. So thank you for bringing this forward. And I would hope as you are out and about in your districts that you continue to bring it forward because we need to educate. And I appreciate the anti-human task force that we have here and the educational part that they're doing with the community. It was interesting as this was coming to the forefront with children. There was a belief that on the Central Coast it really wasn't happening. And until we were educated and we could actually see that, in fact, we live along the 101 corridor and we are a stop. And that is extremely unfortunate. But if we can educate more people on this, to be aware of it, to be looking out for it, we can help as a community to stop this horrific thing. The other part is the intense abuse that happens here. You may not be aware, but it's not easy working with these children. Oftentimes they will run as soon as they're placed. They are conditioned to do this. They are conditioned never to talk about what's happening. The mental, along with the physical, but the mental and emotional abuse that is happening to these children is intense. And that is very hard on those people who are trying to help them. So it's not like, I think too often people think, oh, wow, you rescued this individual from that situation and they're so grateful. No, they're not conditioned for that. And so it takes time and repeated intervention, and sometimes 7-10 times before they start to trust and think, okay, I think there's a better life out there for me and I can trust them, and what I've been told isn't right. And so I want to thank all those who are involved, the social workers, the therapists, law enforcement for the incredible job that they're doing, the folks that are boots on the ground day in, day out and who are dealing with this, because it is a scourge on our society. And so thank you again for bringing this forward.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, I want to give a phone number for the National Human Trafficking Hotline, which is important to make note of and let the community be aware of. That is 1-888-373-7888. So 888-373-7888. Or someone can text the words "Be Free" to 233-733. That's the words "Be Free." Text it to 233-733 if you or anyone you know is being forced into any form of work, whether it be commercial or labor trafficking. And thank you for your attention to this matter.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Is there any other public comment that would be like to be made on this item? Okay, John Herbert, and please go ahead. He's right. And you'll fill out a yellow slip when you're completed. Thanks.
Okay, sorry.
Sherry.
Okay, hi, my name is Sherry. I'm here representing Resilient Souls, nonprofit organization where we come alongside survivors to get them housing, support, and healing through trauma, abuse, approached healing. And so I'm representing Resilient Souls. September 18th, 2024, H.R. 7909 bill, Violence Against Women by Illegal Aliens Act, passed in a 266 and 158 vote. The bill now awaits further consideration in the Senate. This federal bill is aimed to protect women and girls by ensuring illegal aliens convicted of sex offenses or domestic violence, or those who admit to such crimes, are deemed inadmissible to the U.S. It's also called for the deportation of those convicted of a sex crime, offense, or conspiracy to commit such an offense. We need assurance that undocumented immigrants convicted of sex offenses are deported or deemed inadmissible to the country. This bill also deports or deemed inadmissible to our country undocumented immigrants who have already been convicted or admit to having committed sex offenses, domestic violence, stalking, child abuse, or violating a protection order. Every Republican present voted for the bill, as did 51 Democrats. While 158 Democrats voted against it, there are 29 California representatives who voted against protecting our children, and that included Representative Salud Carbajal. So he voted against the H.R. 7909. As victims, survivors, we at Resilient Souls would like to ask why. How come our representative voted this way? You representatives make an oath to protect us and to protect our communities. You have families, spouses, and children, and we can assume that you would want to protect them. You've been sworn into office to protect the communities in which we live. From the voices of victims of exploitation and sexual assault, we are asking, why would anybody vote this way against this HR bill? The survivors would like to have an answer. Last year, we spoke here at the Board of Supervisors informing 2 survivors we recently lost, one to fentanyl and one to a violent death by her perpetrator. It's real, it's very real to us. We are the victims and they are hurting. So one of the things that's really impacting this is that the survivors often every year get a letter from the parole department, which is the threat of early release program on our perpetrators. This means that the survivors have to again make survival plans to run for safety with their young children. The California parole letter informs us that sex trafficking crime is now qualified as a non-violent crime in that letter, and this is a travesty. You, our representatives, work for us. Our survivors are of the most vulnerable, trying to recover and raise their children. Your priority, your constitutional priority, is to protect us. Do you, our representatives, support Salud in his vote against this HR bill? These words are from survivors of a few multitudes, struggling to heal, finding courage and a voice. This does trigger them when we have to ask about their cares and concerns. They are mad at representatives failing to protect them. It's heartbreaking, hearing the fear and anxiety that they expressed about having a voice. Their fears of retaliation, especially from cartel, they don't trust some of the people that vote against these.
Thank you, Sherry.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Hurlbert, were you interested in making comment? Please. Yep.
Thank you very much. My name is John Hurlbert. I'm on the board of Freedom Calling, and a lot of things that I want to talk about are being covered, but I want to thank you from the bottom of our heart for what you're doing and proclaim this month human sex trafficking and awareness and fighting that. Mr. Dan Dow's been a champion of that beyond belief. We work with him on the task force. It's just amazing to have a DA in his position to support us. Basically what we do, we go into school, my wife and I go into different schools, high schools, 9th graders, 8th graders are mandated to have sex trafficking education. And we do that and basically talk to the young men and women about what's happening on their phones as far as sextortion and that type of thing. So again, I just want to thank you for doing this, for proclaiming that, for Dan Dow, his staff, and everybody else out here. We're kind of the grassroots. We're non-professional, but we're out in the streets. It is here. It is in our next door. It's in our neighborhood. It's in our schools. It's here. And it's just amazing to me that when you talk to people, they think, oh, it's not happening here. This is San Luis Obispo. I mean, it is. It's here, and I think you know that. And everything you can do to help us and everything we can do to help you be much appreciated. So thank you again from the bottom of our heart.
Thank you, Mr. Hurlbert. Okay, I'll close public comment here and bring it back to the board for any comments. And Supervisor Gibson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It's always with deeply mixed emotions that I see this item come before us yearly, that we have to continue to combat this and raise awareness of it is deeply disheartening and dispiriting, representing the worst aspects of human nature. And yet, on the other hand, I am tremendously inspired by those whose day-to-day work is in support of the victims and the efforts to bring justice. And so to them, I thank you, victim witness, all your associated partners in doing that, and the DA's office for bringing those responsible to justice. So thank you. And while I despair that we might be doing this again next year, know that I truly have deep gratitude for the work that's done here.
Thank you. Supervisor Paulding.
Thank you, Chair. I hope that next year we don't have to, but unfortunately this is going to be a continued effort, and I just want to extend my appreciation to everybody here who is involved at the ground level, and especially the volunteers who are in the schools and doing everything you can to combat this. And it is good that our board has the opportunity to issue this proclamation to raise awareness. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Supervisor Moreno.
I want to thank the community members. You make us stronger being able to do this kind of work. So thank you to the DA and your office, but all of you in the community who support these victims and help to prevent as much as possible, but also the healing process. Thank you. I know it's difficult.
Thank you. Supervisor Peschong.
I also want to add my voice to thank you and thank the volunteers. This is probably one of the toughest jobs that you've ever done in very difficult circumstances. So thank you for all you do, and then for the professional staff and everybody that works on this. It's not going away. Obviously, this is a nationwide problem, and we're going to need to get really, really serious about it. And I'm looking forward to some of the bills that are coming down, either from the federal government or the state government, that will address this. We'll continue to do our part here on the ground. So thank you for all you do.
Thank you. I'd like to add my gratitude as well. Last fall at our CSAC conference, we had a quite extensive presentation on human trafficking with a lot of the law enforcement from Los Angeles counties and other places. And victim there, survivor, I should say, survivor was there. And what I think is, we know that throughout history, kind of enslavement kinds of things happen, but what's the challenge now is with the technology, the phones, the intimidation, the kinds of psychological warfare that goes on. And I thought what was really poignant, what Director Drake said, was that you think that you're rescuing somebody, but they don't necessarily want to be rescued because they're so manipulated in their belief that that they can't survive without their intimidator there. And so it's a real big battle and a challenge. And these are young people, very young children, as it was said, minors, et cetera. So it's a serious situation. And so thank you again for all your work.